freestyle, as the name implies, really can be anything. In our particular school, there are two styles of freestyle, a natural and a design. In natural freestyle, we use the material pretty much as is without modifying it. And in design, we can add plastic material, we can modify the plans. So my material for the freestyle is sago palm. In our particular school, it's not common to use this palm, but I did remove some leaves, so it still looks natural, but it has nice movement.
Sensei, is there water in the vase?
Yes, and so for our school, Ikenobo, you can see that this is quite a tall vase, and it's empty in the inside. And so to raise up, to hold the kenzan, I have rocks in here. So I have tiny pebbles that I can adjust the height, and then on top of the pebbles, I have the kenzan. Of course, if you had a low vase, then you do not need the rocks. So in my opinion, it's kind of good and bad, because everyone said today, boy, you brought a lot of rocks. But typically, this is Ikenobo style, a taller vase, especially for shoka. So for this particular freestyle, I can really do anything. What I'm trying to emphasize today is the beauty of the leaves. So that's one thing a little bit different about Ikebana. We treasure leaves as much as flowers. And so you can pick, you can choose. Flowers, of course, are beautiful, but I just thought these leaves were quite interesting.
Sensei, how much planning goes into each arrangement?
I haven't done it for 4 years, so probably more than I should have. But it really depends on what you're doing. The more advanced style, Rika, it takes longer to collect the material, and the design has specific rules. In freestyle, you could probably do it quite quickly. What I like to do is get motivated by the flowers, because then I find it easy. When I see the beauty of the material, it's easy to have a design. What I was interested in today was, and I'll show you kind of the structure. I just thought the sago palm were really interesting. So they give depth, forward depth, rear depth, and you have a little feeling of movement from the sago palm. So actually, because of that, I'm not going to add a lot more material.
I want to wear my glasses.
The sago palm is beautiful, but it lacks flowers and it lacks color. So while it has interest, I think that I can enhance it by adding flowers. But so I don't take away from it. I'm actually going to use these are called mini gerbera. So you've probably seen gerbera daisies at Trader Joe's. And these are a variety that are smaller. So I chose those, one, because they're bright, but two, they're small, and they won't hopefully take away from the movement of the sago palm.
So do you have an arrangement in mind and find materials, or do you find materials and come up with an arrangement?
Materials and arrangement, yeah.
For freestyle, I find materials and then find a suitable arrangement. For shoka and rika, you're really set on a pattern, so I have to find materials that suit that pattern. So it's, to be honest, a little bit of both. And you've probably heard the saying, less is more. We do say that in Ikebana, but there's just always the right amount.
Sensei, the question is, where do you obtain your flowers and materials that you use for arrangements?
So I try to grow a lot, especially leaves. They're easy, they're hard to buy. It's easy to buy flowers. It's very difficult to buy interesting leaves. So depends on where I am. I live in Sacramento actually, and Sacramento has a wholesale market. so I can go there to source flowers. Of course, we all love Trader Joe. That's ideal. And then my sensei lives in El Cerrito, so we'll quite often go to the San Francisco Flower Market.
Sensei, is there any rules about the style and type of vase that you use?
For the classical styles like Shoka and Rika, there are very, again, sort of strict rules. For instance, you've probably seen agapanthus growing now. It's that time of year. So when we do our arrangement with agapanthus, the flowers are tall, but the leaves are low. So to give a feeling of that, we use a very low vase, because when you look at it, it's like they're growing in nature. For freestyle, you can actually use anything. So you can use a ceramic vase, you could use a milk carton, you could use a bamboo vase. You really can use any vesicle you want.
No carton. I don't think so.
So we have our supporting material, and now I'm adding a little bit of purple. It's called Caspia. Sometimes it's referred to as Misty, but just to give it a little bit more color interest.
Sensei, the question is it always fresh materials or can you combine dry items?
90% of the time we use fresh. In my last arrangement, I'm going to actually incorporate some dried wood. And again, I think that's one of the beauties of Ikebana, is that we see beauty in everything. So, I'm actually going to incorporate dried wood like this, because I think it's quite beautiful and enhances an arrangement. But of course, Ikebana is living flowers. So we would always have something living.
So a question for you is, do you manipulate the stems in a certain way to make the arrangement work? Is it all natural?
So that's another good question. In the first style, Shoka, we are not allowed to manipulate. So if it's an iris leaf, we can manipulate with our hands, but we cannot use any wire. In Rika, we have to use wire. And in freestyle, wire is optional. So again, it depends on the style. I have one pop of orange and I want to highlight it. I think I'm going to put it here. So this is a little bit of a traditional Shoka vase, but a freestyle arrangement with no set pattern.